the Behind the Rails podcast. Our brethren over at BLEAV. For the Purdue side, Mr. Travis Miller. Thank you for joining us at the Golden Boot. We appreciate you coming. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, and I forgot you can't help me.
I can't help you.
Hold on. There we go.
Well, thank you for having me. And I could sit here and talk basketball all night. I mean, we're number one in the nation.
Hey, the reason why I said one of the best players in the nation.
No, we blew Duke out.
But that's the reason why I said one of the best players when I was talking about Oscar, because Zach Edey is right up there, if not the best player in the nation. So
hey, I gotta give you playing very well right now. I'm very pleased, and I'm going to be on guard because I know our history in March. One of our reverse losses was to LSU in March, knocked a promising team out in the 80s. It was possibly going to go to the Final Four, but. Hey, I'll take it. 13-0 after tonight. Number one in the nation. Let's roll.
I like it. Travis, you got company came in with you. Mr. Matthew Salter said T Mill in the house, boiler up.
Oh, that's one of my guys. Hey, thank oldest and dearest friends.
Matthew, thank you for coming in and joining us, dealing with our foolishness.
Hey, but he got to answer that first question.
Oh, if you let me answer it, ask it.
Hey, I'm dying to know. I'm dying to know.
Somebody did answer in the chat, and I saw it, and I glanced over in the chat. Move. What is a Boilermaker?
Well, it's if you go by the drink, it's a shot of whiskey inside a glass of beer, which to me tastes like pencil erasers in beer. I've had one before; it's nasty. But the story goes back to when, like the late 1800s, when Purdue was playing local rival Wabash College. Purdue blew them out, and Wabash College accused us of having a bunch of ringers from a local locomotive shop that we just brought in, and brought a bunch of ringers and everything. And in the newspaper down in Crawfordsville, Indiana, they're like a bunch of burly boiler makers, and it just stuck from there. So. Wow. Okay. They kind of have had it since. We could be the Pumpkin Shuckers or the Cornfield Sailors. Those were names that they used before that. So
I like Boilermaker because
I like Boilermaker.
I can always use it. I can always flip it to Spoilermaker anytime y'all are playing Ohio State.
Yeah, those are fun when we play Ohio State in West Lafayette.
Makes me some money almost every time.
Speaking of, ladies and gentlemen, West Lafayette is in Indiana. Yeah. South Lafayette is in Louisiana.
No, just Lafayette. Just Lafayette. We ain't got no directions, dog. We just Lafayette.
Then you've got South Bend in northern Indiana. So figure that one out.
That's interesting. So let me ask this: who is your, Purdue's biggest rival? Is it the Indiana in the state, or who is the
Notre Dame? Maybe in state. I don't know. Who do you consider?
Probably Indiana, honestly. We used to play Notre Dame every year in football, but since they started mixing up their schedule a lot, we've only played them once, I think, since 2014, and that was last year. So, that's not been as popular as it was, and we played them every year for like 70 some odd years before they went off the schedule. But most likely it's Indiana, unless you consider crippling defeat and gut punches as a rival, in which case we lose that all the time.
Gotcha. Well, and Travis, whenever we was on your show Monday, you said that Nick Saban is scared to play Purdue.
Oh, Saban's ducking us, man.
Really?
I like it.
I say that because there's only one school that Saban has ever lost 3 games in a row to, and it was Purdue in 97, 98, and 99 when he was at Michigan State. And then he got scared and ran his ass off to the SEC. And he has not played a since. He's been ducking us. So, Bama don't want us. I'm sticking with it until he decides to play us. So
I understand.
I love it.
I understand. Since we're talking about history records, LSU is undefeated against Purdue. I don't know if anyone knew that. Yeah, no, LSU is undefeated in football.
When the last time we played Purdue?
We've never played Purdue. We are undefeated against Purdue.
Let me ask you this, Travis. Since we just talked about the spoiler maker moniker, the first time I really ever heard of it was when some man named Rondale Moore was running all over Ohio State. So And then y'all follow him up with David Bell, and then y'all follow him up with Charlie Jones this year, who came from nowhere at Iowa to 1,000-yard receiver at Purdue and helped me win my college fantasy league. Appreciate that, by the way. So, what is it about Purdue that y'all just keep making wide receivers like that?
Man, I don't know. Jeff Brom managed to recruit some really, really good ones there, and one of the downsides of the COVID season and the year before that is we never really got to see Bell and Moore thrive together because Moore got hurt in his sophomore season. He only played 4 games, and it was his injury that kind of allowed Bell to come onto the scene as a freshman. And then during the COVID year, it looked like Moore was going to be out, and then he was back, and he only played like 3 or 4 games. So I think we got a total of like 6 games with the 2 of them, fully healthy playing together, and that's unfortunate, man, because they would have been a lot of fun to watch together.
Well,
hey, shout out to the chat. I'm on one. Says the Golden Boot, and then Nick. Thank you. Thank you for keeping us updated, Adam. The women's team is smacking Archie. Yeah, they're up 66-41 right now.
As they should be.
I need them to get 5 more points at least.
Hey, but
mind your business. Mind your business.
What's your thoughts on the new hire?
It's interesting. I'm cautiously optimistic. He has put together a pretty good roster of young coaches. He's already gone out and got a big transfer quarterback in Hudson Card from Texas coming over. He's got Graham Harrell. Graham Harrell looks like he's going to keep the wide open passing offense going. And that's when Purdue's been at its most successful, is when they've had a good quarterback and they've been able to throw the ball all over the field. I was a fan, I was in school when Drew Brees was there, so I'm used to seeing,
the second best quarterback in Purdue history. Shout out Kyle Orton.
Oh, Kyle Orton too. I saw him too. Well, I know you guys love Brees down there for the Saints, though. So
yes,
definitely.
Yeah. So okay, speaking of Brees, while we're on this, I was going to ask something. What is it like as Purdue alum and a big Purdue fan for him to be back as a coach, even if it just is in this interim role?
I think it's great. A lot of people were like, well, maybe he should be the head coach or something. And I'm thinking, okay, he's never coached anywhere at any level. Let's pump the brakes before putting him in charge of a Big Ten team. But it's great that he's come back to, even if it's just a one-shot deal, to help out his alma mater. He's always been very generous and very kind to give back to the school. He's given several $1 million. He's got his name on a building up there. He helped build the new football performance facility that they have that upgraded our facilities significantly. So it's just wonderful to see him give back and everything else. And I know he will always be welcome in West Lafayette, even though he's from Texas and then I believe still lives down in New Orleans.
Yeah. Travis, of course, us Saints fans down here, we know Drew Brees likes, breaking records. And sometimes some people may have said he probably even overstayed his welcome with the Saints. Not going to say that, but I mean, how would you feel about the later end of his NFL career?
The views and opinions expressed by
man, I think I was pulling for him to get one more run.
I'm joking. Yeah,
I was pulling for him to get one more run. That last season, I could tell he didn't have it. He was not the same Brees that I had watched his entire career. But the Saints had the defense, and they had Kamara playing well, and it looked like they were leading that game against Tampa. And one fumble changed the whole game, man. So if I forget who the tight end's name was, if he doesn't fumble,
Jared Cook.
Yeah, thank you.
If he doesn't fumble there, they're in, about to go down and score again, and maybe they get to the NFC title game, and you never know. I mean, he was playing better than Peyton Manning did in his last season.
That's true. I'll give you that. I will give you that. There ain't no doubt about that one. I will give you that. So let's bring it back to Coach Walters real quick. So when he was announced, I saw a lot of outrage, I guess would be the right word. Dismay. I don't know, whatever word you want to use, by the fan base. Was it an underwhelming hire to a lot of the fan base? And if so, who did they really want?
See, that's the real question, man, because I think a lot of people weren't aware of who he was, but he's kind of warmed to the fan base since then. I know one of the first acts that he did, he came in and he gave a scholarship to our freshman running back, Devin Maccabee, who came out of nowhere this year. And if he has a decent game in the bowl game, he's going to have a 1,000-yard season. So he scored a lot of points with the fans there. He's done a good job of just nailing his assistants. We've learned a little bit more about his defense. I think people were just kind of surprised at how young he was and how he had never been a head coach at this level. So they're going to reserve judgment. But at the same time, Jeff Brom came in and resurrected a program that was beyond dead. I mean, we were worse than Kansas during that stretch, man. Under Darrell Hazel, we won 9 games in 4 years, and 4 of them were over FCS teams. That any Power 5 team does not have a valid excuse to ever lose to an FCS team, unless you're dumb enough to play North Dakota State. I'll take that.
Thank you. Speaking of Jeff Brom and Kansas. Segue. A lot of people don't realize Les Miles was actually one of the candidates or who was petitioning to get that Purdue job before Brom actually got it. So
be thankful that didn't happen.
Yeah. So
he was one of the names that people were wanting and everything. And I know they were making the photoshops of him in the Purdue hat and everything. So I mean, at the time, I just wanted somebody who could win a damn Big Ten game.
Well, you know what? Les Miles would have fit in perfectly. It would have been icing on the cake if you had some blondes, but it would have been perfect.
No comment.
This man just said that Purdue is at its best whenever they throwing the football around, and then you just said Les Miles would be a perfect fit.
I'm saying for Big Ten football, wow, I like
Les
10 years
Miles
ago.
And throwing the football around do not belong in the same.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah. We talked about Coach Walters coming in. What are some of the expectations for him?
It's going to be an interesting year next year, just because kind of where Brom had been building things, he'd really been building with his recruiting classes and experience towards these last 2 seasons. And then last season, they come out, they go 9-4, they win a bowl game over Tennessee. Everything's great. This year, 8-5, you win the Big Ten West. Probably about 2 plays from being 10-3 right now, because they held a lead inside the last minute against both Penn State and Syracuse. So, I mean, this is a team that was on it, but they lose a lot. And that's one of my biggest concerns for the bowl game, is because most of the guys that we were going to lose are already sitting out. You mentioned Charlie Jones. He's opting out. Payne Durham, NFL caliber tight end, he's opting out. Aiden O'Connell, starting quarterback, 6th-year senior, he's opting out.
That's the name I was waiting on.
So, and we got a couple of our top defenders that are opting out. Jalen Graham and Corey Trice. So, it's going to be interesting. You're going to see in the bowl game a lot of guys that are going to be playing next year. And then anytime that you've got a coaching change in early December, it throws everything into flux with the recruiting class and with guys jumping in the transfer portal and everything. So I think if Walters can just get him to a bowl game next year, because it's a much tougher schedule. We have to play Ohio State and Michigan from the East, and then all 3 of our non-conference games are difficult. I believe we host Fresno State, we go to Virginia Tech, and then we host Syracuse on the back end of that home and home. So
that's tough right
there. It's tricky, and if they can get off to a good start next year, you never know. Just because the Big Ten West is the Big Ten West, but hey, somebody had to win it. And
that's true.
So I'll take it. I was there at the championship game, and I was delighted to be there. So.
Were you surprised that Brom left for Louisville?
Once that job came open, I think the writing was on the wall, because we barely held on to him the last time when they got Satterfield. Mm-hmm. And I think there were all kinds of rumors and back channel discussions all season, because I know Satterfield was on the hot seat. Then they started winning. Mm-hmm. And you could tell out of Louisville that was not going to be – it was not the best relationship. And then once he bailed for Cincinnati – every Purdue fan's like, uh-oh, then we know who their first call is going to be. So, we tried to hang on to him. Mike Babinski offered him, was like, okay, what do you want to talk contract-wise? But he was getting called home. So I don't blame him for leaving. It's kind of left us in a bind for this bowl game, because he took half the assistants with him, and the other half are going to be joining him after the bowl game. He's taking a couple guys in the portal, a couple recruits, but I don't fault him. He wants to go home, and he's from the Louisville area. He played there, and I don't fault him. I mean, it's not a surprise really that he ended up there.
It says a lot about what Purdue is, though, that people are coming to get y'all's coach, though. That.
Yeah, I mean, he turned around a program that was just god awful, and right from the beginning. I mean, that first season, he went 7-6 and won a bowl game. So that was just an immediate turnaround, and he had 3 wins over top 5 teams. He, has the memorable Ohio State win. Got, I think last year was only like our 8th 9-win season ever. Got a big bowl win, and he left the program better than when he arrived, and I think that's all you can ask for, really. And if this is the low point, for Walters, and he's going to springboard from there, then I think we're in a good spot.
Right. And Travis, let me ask you this also. Of course, you're talking about how many people are leaving the team and the transfer portal, and the coach leaving. I mean, what's the mood of the team right now? Like, are they excited about this game? High expectations. How are they feeling?
It's hard to say. We're going to be starting Austin Burton at quarterback, and he is a 6-year guy that came to us out of the transfer portal 2 years ago. So this is his 3rd year in the program. Hasn't played a lot in his career. He started 1 game at UCLA, and he started 1 game here at Purdue. He started against Florida Atlantic this year on homecoming when O'Connell was hurt. And he had a modest game. He threw for 3 touchdowns and a pick, but he was under 200 yards. He's a very, very different quarterback than O'Connell, mostly because he's a true dual threat quarterback. We've actually run him in on some packages where he was designed runs for him or read option for him, mostly because O'Connell is about as mobile as a statue.
That is true.
Yeah, I think O'Connell was like 200 yards underwater for his career at Purdue.
Wow.
So,
hey, but he can sling that thing, though.
Yeah, he can throw it, but you didn't want to see him run it, man. But Burton, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, this is a guy, he's playing his last collegiate game. He's not going to go to the NFL, so probably his last game ever. I'm curious to see what he's going to do, and he's waited for this opportunity for his entire career, basically.
This man finna have a career game versus us and storybook ending. Watch.
Right, and it'll be interesting to see what he does with Devin Mockabee in the backfield. You might see Purdue be a much better running team than they've been all season, because Mockabee he's been a pleasant surprise. Redshirt freshman walk-on, had never played before the second game this year, got in at the end of the blowout against Indiana State.
Sounds like our starting running back. And
then just took off after that. And I think he was over 100 yards like 5 or 6 times. Played really, really well throughout the season. And we're excited that he's also on board, because Brom was coming after him too to get him to come to Louisville with him. And he turned him down. And I think partially because Walters put him on scholarship that first move. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm curious to see what works out. We're going to see a lot of guys that haven't played a lot of minutes this year, but hopefully they can put it together, because I remember bowl games where it hasn't gone very well. I don't know if you saw us play Auburn in 2018, but man, that was brutal.
Yeah.
So for those of you tuning in, Florida State just finished off Oklahoma 35-32, and the Lady Tigers got the most disappointing 24-point win. Not disappointing in the fact that they won. I just didn't get my 71 points. Mind your business. All right. So, Mr. Travis, quick question. You've talked about Coach Brom, the players who are leaving, the coaches who are leaving. We know Drew Brees is there in the interim role, kind of helping out. Who's the interim head coach for this game?
Officially, it's Brian Brom, Jeff's brother. He's been the offensive coordinator all 6 years that Jeff was here. He coached the opening game of the COVID season because Jeff had COVID, and it ended up being a nice little win over Iowa, where David Bell had 3 touchdowns. And I think it was very interesting to see that, because at the time, our fans were like, okay, will you just let Brian run the offense? Because Jeff was very adamant about calling the plays, so the offensive coordinator didn't do a lot. Well, in his one shot, came out and won the game.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting to see. At least there's some continuity there, and with at least a couple of weeks to prepare for Burton, I'm curious to see what he cooks up because, like I said, it's going to be a very different type of quarterback. Burton is not O'Connell, but he offers some looks that nobody's really seen this year from us, just because there isn't that much film on him, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. We know again both sides opt outs, coaches in shambles. Strengths and weaknesses at this point for this game.
I think one of the strengths is going to be Purdue's defensive line. They've done a pretty solid job all year. Most of them are seniors that are going to take their extra COVID year. They've already gone into the portal, but they've agreed to stay. Branson Dean, Lawrence Johnson, Jack Sullivan, they've been pretty solid. And they've really picked up the slack after George Karlaftis left last year as a first-round draft pick. Because Karlaftis was an absolute beast. I mean, part of the only reason he didn't put up bigger numbers is he was getting double and triple teamed every time. And that makes the rest of the defense look really good when you get to play 8 on 10.
Right.
So I'm curious to see what they'll probably be pretty solid. Maccabee's been great all year. He has more speed than we've had at running back in a while. He's pretty elusive. He's not the biggest back, but he was a high school state track champion and a hurdles champion. So, I mean, kid can fly. He's got some speed, and he's got that. If he can get some space, he can make a big play. I know he had a big one at Minnesota that sealed the win there. Busted like a 66-yard run when we were up 3 with 2 minutes to go and set up a touchdown for himself.
I remember that play. Yeah.
So he's definitely a strength. Offensive line is pretty strong. Most of them have been together for a while, and they've done a good job protecting O'Connell all season. But weaknesses, man, I'm like, who's coaching?
Yeah.
Who's coaching? And you lose your starting quarterback. You're not. I mean, all credit to Burton and maybe Michael Alimo, a guy who might be the starter next year, has been in the program a couple of years. They're not Aiden O'Connell, and O'Connell threw for 500 plus yards in the bowl game last year on Tennessee and had a fantastic game. If Burton does that, I'm going to be absolutely shocked. I don't know if he has 500 passing yards in his career.
Yeah. I do remember Monday on your show Monday, you guys talked about it. You mentioned about the bowl game last year with Purdue and Tennessee. That was it's a very interesting game, to say the least.
I will say this: I do think Tennessee got hosed. I think he got scored. I think he scored. However, they blew the play dead. Once it's blown dead, you can't do anything.
That was the Music City Bowl, right?
Yes. And
we've gotten hosed by Indiana team and then Music City Bowl before. So
imagine that.
So
certainly not Indiana. I mean, that would have make a bowl, let alone win one.
It was Notre Dame. There was a fake punt where the 8th string quarterback was doing the holding on an extra point. Was it a field goal attempt? They ran a fake field goal, Les Miles special. The kid gets in. I mean, clearly we're looking at the review, everybody's saying that he got in, and the referee was like, no, he's short. He's short by half a yard. And the ball was anyway.
Right.
Another thing that came up on your show, Big Ten versus SEC. Which conference is better? Conference? Yeah, what's the better conference? We'll start football side. Dave from Down South Football Podcast says, "Go Boilermakers." Hey, Dave.
We talking? We speaking in every sport, or we speaking?
No, I just we
do football.
Football and basketball. Football.
Okay.
And basketball.
Okay.
Yeah.
I say.
It's interesting because football, it seems like there's just two at the top of both of them right now that are just above everybody else in Alabama and Georgia for you guys, and Ohio.
Wait, hold on.
But you guys beat Alabama.
I was just about to say
Alabama?
that. I was about the SEC West goes through LSU.
I think it's 4 this year.
In the last 4 years, how many SEC teams have won a national championship?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And
You know
only
what I mean?
one Big Ten team's won one in the last 20, so that's Ohio
Exactly.
State.
You see what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
mean, but I will say
We got-
that the
Big Ten in the discussion.
Oh,
I will
Salter,
say the Big
come on,
Ten,
dog.
the Big Ten is improving with Michigan
Yeah.
improving, Penn State kind of rising up a little bit, even like Maryland and Wisconsin and some of those schools kind of trying to creep closer to the top. So they're not as top heavy as they used to be. Where I feel like the SEC kind of might be more top heavy than they used to be in the past, with Alabama and Georgia further ahead than they kind of used to be, but LSU and some of those schools right there in the middle.
I think
Yeah.
Vanda can beat Rutgers.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't think
Well,
there's no question about that.
There was definitely a hierarchy this year because Ohio State and Michigan were above everybody else. Penn State, I think, was at pretty solid number 3. And then the other schools, it was a bag of cats most every week.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, you're going to have possibly the SEC champion versus the Big Ten champion in the national championship game.
Oh, there you go.
And then the other two teams who played in those conference championships are playing in our bowl game. So we can, you got the conference runner-ups in this bowl game. So, I guess we'll have to settle that debate on the field.
That's all we can do.
Yeah. To be fair, Penn State did go down to the Plains and dog walk Auburn.
That's true. That's very true.
I mean, we did better against Penn State.
But Penn State would be the third best Big Ten team.
Yeah.
And Auburn would be the sixth, seventh at best this year.
Yeah,
at best, you know what I mean? Like it might be lower than that.
And we should have beaten Penn State in the opener. We blew that game.
Yeah. No comment on that. That was
Travis, who's the best coach in the Big Ten, football wise?
Oh man. See, I'm gonna go a little deeper than usual. I'm gonna give Bilemus a lot of credit at Illinois just because of what he's done. I mean, the four of us could recruit talent to Ohio State, and
that's fair. That's fair.
And it helps a lot when you've got 4- and 5-star talent at every position on the field.
That's true.
But
That's true.
you look at what
they still get beat by Michigan. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Michigan's got the same talent, though.
Yeah, they do. But you look at what a guy like Bileum has done this year in turning around Illinois and had them in the race all season. They gave Michigan their toughest game, and they did it in Ann Arbor.
That's true.
I'm not saying he's the best coach, but I'm more impressed by him than like a Ryan Day or something. So
what about
I like
Loxley?
seeing that.
What about Loxley?
Loxley's done a decent job. I'd like to see a little bit more. He's got to get them a little bit more competitive against the big guys in that side of the conference.
I think their defense got to improve. I think he can put up points, but he can't give up 50. You know what I mean? Even though you're going to score 40, you can't give up 50.
Right.
So yeah, and it's and plus there's turnover. There's turnover at all the other spots.
I was trying to think of the wording. Somebody on this show said that Ohio State has more talent top to bottom than Michigan.
It's the truth. I said
it. I mean, it's more top to bottom, but I mean, Michigan has the talent on their team. They got 5, 4, and 5 stars. Starting lineup wise, it's probably neck and neck. If you go third string, you might see it.
Yeah, that was interesting. All right, basketball
Harbaugh is the best coach in the Big Ten. Wow.
I like that.
Interesting.
I like it.
He's won the Big Ten twice. And how long has he been there? He's beaten Ohio State twice. And how long has he been there?
How long has Ryan Day been a coach at Ohio State?
What, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
Okay,
something like that. Yeah.
And he's won.
So he beat. Okay, he couldn't beat Urban.
No, he never beat Urban.
I mean, Urban Meyer is different.
But if he's the best coach in the Big Ten, why he couldn't beat Urban?
Even before
Urban Meyer is not in the Big Ten right now.
But if you're that good of a coach, you would have won one against him.
Urban Meyer is a legend. A legend. It's not even close.
Jeff Brown beat him.
Beat his ass. I mean, 4 touchdowns. I was there that night.
I'm just saying, if you're that damn good, you could beat him once.
Okay.
Joe Louis beat him.
Oh,
But
boy.
Purdue basketball. Very impressive so far. 13-0. Expectations for the year, basketball wise.
Got to cut down the nets, man.
Oh, I learned my lesson last year about putting the cart before the horse there, because that was one of the most frustrating and hard to watch seasons. Lost 4 Big Ten games on buzzer beaters. I think of the 8 losses that we had, 6 were by 3 points or less.
Sheesh.
And you win 29 games, but you don't win the Big Ten. You don't win the Big Ten tournament. You lose in the Sweet 16 to a 15 seed. That just hurt. And I couldn't even think about it all off season. And I was down on this team when it started, but man, when they went out to Portland and they beat West Virginia, Gonzaga, and Duke in a 4-day span, right after beating a really good Marquette team at home, they've impressed me. I think they're a better team. They're more cohesive this year, which is incredible to say after losing 3
Jaden
seniors, 3-year player in Isaiah Thompson, and a top 10 draft pick. Somehow they're better. I don't know, man, but they're better defensively. They haven't shot the ball from 3 very well yet, but they've got guys that are just going to get hot for a game or two. And I'm always on guard with Purdue. I have seen far too many good Purdue teams fall apart in March and have that just gut-wrenching loss. I say Purdue is the best team in the country before March 15th. After March 15th, watch out.
I was gonna ask, how do you how much better do you think they are losing Ivy? Because for Purdue to have a guy who's a lottery pick is kind of rare, and for y'all to lose him and still be better than you were last year, that says a lot to the culture and the program that y'all built there. So is Zach Edey the best player to come through Purdue?
Nah, I think Ivy's better. He's more versatile. Edey is hard to say because I just don't see how he fits in with the modern NBA game. I haven't seen him make a shot beyond 10 feet from the basket unless it's a free throw. That's
a fair point.
And so, but he's got excellent footwork. If this was about 1992, he would be he would be the number 1 overall pick, no doubt in my mind.
I mean, he could be Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, he could do that. He's got great footwork.
It hates Rudy.
It doesn't mean. I mean, Rudy Gobert is a starting center in the NBA. He shouldn't get paid $40 million. He shouldn't be a 3-time defensive player of the year.
I told you he hates
it. But that's a totally different subject. He's a starting center in the NBA. I'm just saying he shouldn't be a 3-time defensive player of the year or a max contract level player. But I'm just saying Zach Edey could be a serviceable NBA center. That's all I'm saying.
And that would be fine with it. I think it'll be interesting to see what he does after this year, because I know the scouts are watching him. His draft stock's going up. He's the leading candidate for National Player of the Year right now, and he could still come back next year if he wants to. But
he's been there 16 years, seem like.
Nah, this is only his 3rd year.
Dang.
But and he was like the 350th recruit in his class or something. Jeez. Absurd. Yeah. I bet he has excelled when you lost a guy in Travion Williams who's playing in the G League right now. It was a 4-year starter and a fantastic big in his own right. Yeah. But that's one of the subtle differences with this team is you've got Caleb First taking a lot of those minutes that Williams had, and First is a lot more versatile than Williams. He's quicker. He can shoot the 3. He can guard outside. When we had Williams, it was pretty much just 1 in, 4 out, no matter what. So he's taken a leap this year, and he's got the guys around him that if there's a night where they're hitting threes, Purdue can't be beat. Honestly, I mean they can't, because it's a matter of, do you have the guy that is physically impossible to guard 1-on-1, or do you get out on the shooters?
To your point though. You win in March with guard play, so
yes,
that's the ultimate. The deciding factor is going to be can those guys make those jumpers outside, and can they kind of carry y'all through the tournament? Because that's what when as good as big men are, in the college game. Guards win tournaments.
I agree, and that we had that guard last year with Jaden
Exactly.
Ivey. We made our big run with Carson Edwards, and
Exactly.
right now
I forgot
we're
about him. He was so good. Oh,
that night in Louisville, man. Oh man, I was more surprised when he missed in overtime than when he was throwing in like the 35, 40 footers. But
yeah, that kid was good.
But we're starting 2 true freshmen in the backcourt, and they have exceeded all expectations right now. Braden Smith he's been a better point guard than we've had in several years. Fletcher Lawyer is, the typical Indiana kid that just grew up shooting and can just get hot from 3. And, we're going to go as far as they carry us. And so far they've done extremely well. They looked really good out in Portland. And I'm just hoping there's not a freshman wall for them. We'll find out here in Big Ten play. We got 18 games to go.
I'm ready to see Edie versus Hunter Dickinson. That's all I'm ready to see.
Hunter tore us up last year.
That kid could ball.
That was the one game we got blown out. We went up to Ann Arbor, and I think we lost by 25. It was ugly.
That's a big man who can step out, though. He can step out in him. So,
all right. So, Travis, before we let you go, I do want to talk a little on LSU side of the field, I guess you could say. Fellas, let me ask you this, because we said we'll kind of bring this up while Travis is here. And this will lead to my next question. What worries you about the game?
I would say for us, the defensive side of the ball. Just us not having the bodies. It being a long season, we have a lot of guys up front that are going to be young playing for the first time, possibly getting reps. So
my cat just decided to jump on the table. She's like, you're supposed to be on the couch right now, and I'm supposed to be in your lap.
Right. But yeah, I would say that. But I mean, honestly, what I'm not worried about is our offense. I'm not worried about our offense at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm based off, the way he just described what their offense is going to look like. Our defensive line depth and lack of experience to a certain extent is really what I'm worried about. And the way LSU is shown we aren't the best tacklers at all times also is kind of worries me. Because I've seen that running back. He a load.
Right.
I think Harold Perkins is going to have to ball out for us.
For sure.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. So that leads me to my next question. This one's more towards you, Travis. At times LSU has struggled on offense to get going. They've started slow. Is this a game against Purdue where LSU can start slow and struggle and win late, or is this if they start slow, it might be a long day?
I honestly think it's one that LSU can be in it regardless. Purdue has had their defensive secondary has been feast or famine all year. I think we set a school record. We had like 4 pick sixes this year. First time we've ever done that one season, but then they'll blow a tackle and give up a 65-yard play. So it's been all over the map there. So they're as likely to make the big play as give one up. But the real question is what can Burton do? I'm very curious to see what he does with a full month to prepare. I think against Florida Atlantic, he only had like 5 days because O'Connell had thrown for like 400 yards the week before when he got hurt. So if he can actually get the offense moving, I think we could put up some points at least. But if he can't, man, it's gonna be a long day on our end just because there's a lot of questions on offense and we're missing 3 of our best 4 players offensively. So that's not good.
Yeah.
All right. We do have a breaking news just came out, and looks like LSU is getting some much needed help back. Major Burns, starting safety, just coming back for 2023. That is big news for our secondary that a lot of people were worried about prior to the end of the season. So I guess major news for Major.
Major news.
Pun intended. Yeah.
Pun
intended.
Yeah,
we do got rim shots. It's
I can't play it, bro.
I know.
I would have played it, but
I know. Yeah. Travis, thank you so much for coming on with us.
Yes, sir.
Maybe when
Sure.
LSU makes this run in basketball, wink, wink.
Maybe we'll meet.
And I
There
think
we
we should bring him back on closer to March Madness either way, just so we could talk about the tournament.
I'm
like
happy to do that. But if you talk to me during a Purdue game in the tournament, I will be an absolute basket case. Because I was at the old website that I ran before I moved over to the Rivals Network. I had the press pass for us the night we lost to Virginia in the Elite Eight,
Oh.
and if they had not tied it, there's a greater than 50% chance I was going to stage dive into the Purdue fans behind me off of the press table. I mean, as it is, if you watch the replay of that Diakate shot, you could see me surrender Cobra. And I got to see what the ceiling of the KFC Yum Center looked like in great detail. But
I love it.
Hey, I respect your passion, brother. I respect the passion.
I'm from Indiana. We love basketball.
Hey, I respect that.
I get it. Shout out to French Lick and Larry Bird over there.
Hey, I will say this, and I know you're probably gonna hate me for this, but the movie Hoosiers is overrated.
I loved it as a kid growing up, but you guys might see a guy from my high school right now in a year or two. Flory Badunga, the number 2 recruit in the nation for the 23 forecast.
Yeah, that kid can ball.
He is at my old high school, and Auburn is going after him big time.
That kid can ball.
He's good. He is one of the best we have ever had, and as much as I know Purdue basketball, I know Indiana basketball, Indiana high school basketball even more. So
okay, well, let me ask one question before you go. One question:
Sure.
Is Eric Gordon the best Indiana player of this, century?
Oh hell no! Oh hell no! I saw Greg Oden in high school.
Okay.
I saw Oden and Conley were amazing together.
Yeah,
I mean
that was a cheat
they
code.
rolled the state for 3 years.
What about wasn't the Zeller brothers from Indiana too?
Yeah, all 3 of the Zellers were from there. So they played down in southern Indiana, a small school called Washington. So
I got you. Yes. Yeah, we got to bring him back to talk ball, Pooh.
Definitely.
Eric Gordon couldn't even win a state championship. You know who he lost to? Etwan Moore.
Shout out to Etwan Moore. He was on the Pelicans, baby.
Etwan Moore.
I forgot he went to Purdue. Number 55, baby. Yeah.
Travis, again, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I hate that I couldn't make it on your show.
That's all right.
When you guys had it on Monday. But thank you so much.
Superstar was there to hold it down.
Anyway.
Yeah, Corey did a great job.
Corey did a great job.
For those that don't know, Corey is the all-time touchdowns leader at Purdue. Came close to breaking some of Mike Allstott's rushing records. Did break his rushing touchdown record and everything. So, and that was when Joe Tiller was there. He was putting up huge rushing numbers. If you ever listen to our show, he's always like, "Man, I'd have done so much better if you'd just give me the damn ball." I'm like, Corey, you ran for 3,000 yards and had 54 touchdowns. I know. Give me the ball.
But thank you again. Give Corey our best.
I will.
And we'll look for him next time.
Awesome.
Ladies
Thanks,
and gentlemen, that was our guy from the BLEAV Network, Mr. Travis Miller of the Behind the Rails podcast. Hold on, give me a second. I'm catching up. All right, there we go.